Emile Hirsch is one of the most versatile and talented young actors today. You saw him in Into the Wild, directed by Sean Penn, which to me is one of my top 3 films of all time. I'll just say that right off the bat. Because, yeah, I know. But it was incredible. That and the fact that you could go from being Christopher McCandless to being Speed Racer, and then playing an activist in Milk. And now you're playing a, let's just say, a person with a drug debt that was hard to pay off in the latest film by William Friedkin called Killer Joe.
Yeah.
Directed by a legend. I mean, this is the man who did The French Connection, he did The Exorcist. What was it like working with William Friedkin?
Well, my first experience with Friedkin was they had reissued The Exorcist into the theaters in Los Angeles. So I went to, I think it was the Mann Village in Westwood, and I saw Exorcist. And as I was watching the movie, I had this kind of tingly, needle, prickly sensation where I realized that I was having a full-blown anxiety attack.
Jeez.
The real kind, you know?
Seriously.
And I contemplated and I was in the middle of the aisle. So it was a far of the row. So it was a far walk to get to the aisle. So I kind of looked and I realized it would be very difficult at that moment to go and escape the theater. But I'd never had a movie scare me so badly before, as an experience, and never before, never since. So there was a little bit of dread to a certain extent, but it was an amazing film, and it speaks to the power of the film that it had that reaction from me. So my first meeting with Billy was after they had sent me the script and they told me that he was directing it, and it was at his house. And he lives in this kind of crazy mansion up in the hills, and he's got this office, and he came and kind of greeted me, and I didn't really know what he'd look like or what he'd sound like or the cadence of his voice so much. And he brought me into his office, which is kind of a gothic kind of office.
I would guess, coming from you.
Yeah, there's something very, like, there's twisted artwork, and it's kind of dark, and it's just stacked with books. And we had this kind of intense conversation, and he had this really direct way of talking to you with these kind of thick glasses that he was wearing, and he just kind of seemed like a mad scientist. But he spoke about the film and the characters and the screenplay in a really just brilliant way that comes with having so many years of experience and the special touch that he does. I immediately knew, that I was in the hands of a master, and that it would be an incredible opportunity to get to be a part of the film. But some of the things that he was looking for, was just spontaneity, and especially because the source material was a play.
Yeah.
He really wanted it to feel not rehearsed, not. What would the word be?
Yeah, scripted.
Stalted, or is that even a fucking word?
Yeah. But the character you play, I mean, you got the crap beaten out of you many times. I mean, you're a guy that's got a drug problem, and then
he's a bit of a human punching bag towards the end of it.
I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, have you ever been in a movie where you got beaten up that bad before? Because that was some serious butt kicking.
Well, I mean, you can't get beat up much worse than death.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, well.
But it's an interesting phenomenon when you watch yourself be beaten up that badly, or get your ass kicked so thoroughly.
Yeah.
The first time I saw it, I don't know why, but it elicited like spontaneous laughter from me, involuntary laughter, hard laughter, where I completely lost it.
Now this is when you were watching the finished product.
Yeah, Billy brought me into the editing room and sat me down and showed me, and from the beat down with the bikers through the whole ending.
Yeah.
I, for some reason, even at all the worst parts, I just couldn't stop laughing, and I never knew if that was kind of this weird, like pushing some weird button in my brain of just seeing yourself being beaten that like I'd never seen before, and like, you know, if it was like some, I don't know, like cynical self-punishment gratification kind of thing. I couldn't tell exactly what it was, but for whatever reason I started laughing.
Kind of like an out-of-body experience almost. Like
it was very strange, you know. It was like it's a strange thing to see.
Well, part of the reason why you were being beaten up is because you hired Matthew McConaughey to kill your mom. I mean, what do you draw on to come up with a guy that wants
Joe Cooper?
Well, killer Joe Cooper. But I mean, how do you come up with a persona that wants to kill his own mother? I mean, where did you go for that?
Well, he has to start out hating his mother.
Well, there's that.
You know, but I think his mother. It sounds bad to me and you, but in this guy's case, you know, his mom, he probably really didn't like her very much.
Yeah, there is that.
So pretend like she's not your mom and pretend she's your arch enemy for a second. And I think that that's probably a little closer to the way he viewed things. And, you know, he just wanted her, I don't know, I mean, that's one of the stretches of the imagination that acting requires. I don't know. I could never imagine that. This is the worst thing imaginable.
Yeah, you probably have a good relationship with your own parents, right?
Great.
Yeah.
But, you know, you got to kind of throw that out the window and just, you don't necessarily have to completely understand, as long as you can say the lines and play the scene. I don't necessarily think an actor has to understand the character they're playing. I think that that's to a certain degree, and not always applicable, but there is a large amount of bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, actors kind of can wind themselves up and convince themselves of, but a lot of the times when people do things, they don't understand the reasons why they're doing them. So why the hell would an actor who's pretending to be them?
Yeah.
So, you know.
Well, in the case of playing Christopher McCandless in Into the Wild, I totally bought that you were Alexander Supertramp. I mean, that you had totally chucked everything that you'd built up, you know, in terms of your schooling and your relationship with your family and your parents, and you just wanted to go for it and, you know, travel across the country and go up to Alaska and try living in the wild. I mean, there would seem to be no line between who is Emile Hirsch and who is an actual person, Christopher McCandless, who ended up dying in Alaska. Did you do anything in particular to prepare for that role, like reading the book by?
I mean, yeah. I mean, the preparation for that was fairly specific in the sense it was really kind of reading the books that McCandless have read and exposed himself to. And there was also a limited amount of videotape of him in college, but he was performing a skit and talking to people that had known him and stuff. I don't know. I don't necessarily. I think that the books and the like Ralph Waldo Emerson and Thoreau and some of those writers, I think that helped get into the mindset of what would have motivated McCandless.
Yeah.
What could have partially motivated him to do that. To go off into the wild.
Did you read the book by Krakauer?
Oh yeah. I loved the book by Krakauer.
Yeah, I mean,
I read the book before I read the script.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what made you decide to do it?
Well, no. I mean, I decided to do it as soon as Sean called me.
I believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah, any excuse to work with Sean Penn.
Yeah, I mean, plus I was 21 at the time. It's been 6 years. I'm 27 now. Crazy. So I was just like, Sean Penn, yeah, cool.
Yeah. It seemed like that process turned you into a bit of an activist because you climbed Kilimanjaro, you know, the summit for the summit, and you spent some time
the way that worked was just my friend Kenna, who's a musician, he was gathering a group of actors and musicians and stuff to go climb up Kilimanjaro for clean water. And it was going to be, they made it an MTV documentary that was geared to raise awareness and raise money.
Right.
And so we climbed Kilimanjaro, we had a whole video crew, and I had a great time on it. It was great. I got a little sick, but it was okay.
Altitude sickness? Or?
It was just like kind of just crazy, unsanitary living. You know? Just kind of got a little infected, but they pumped me full of some antibiotics, and I limped up to the top. And then the times that I had gone to the Congo, I went
Yeah.
to the Congo and Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
On 2 separate trips with Oxfam America.
Well, the Congo's intense. I mean, anyone who would go there, I mean, man, you don't know what you're going to
The Congo is actually a bit of a funny little story because I had planned on going to the Congo. Oxfam had invited me, and I got to know Oxfam America, their Oxford Famine Relief Institute or something. They're based in England, but they branched out across the world. So after Into the Wild, where McCandless had given his life savings to Oxfam, they invited me on this trip to Congo, of all places.
Right.
And I'd read the Michael Crichton novel. So,
oh, geez.
I didn't know what to expect, but it was supposed to be with a few other actors. But they all canceled. One of them a couple weeks before, and one of them on the way to the airport. I got the call, which told me that this actor had decided not to go.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I'll just go anyway. I'll be the only actor. It's not like I'm going alone. There's still other people with Oxfam.
Yeah.
And so we went and we explored the on the ground operations. They build wells. They call them boreholes.
Yeah.
These big kind of metal screws in the sky. These little irrigation systems and sanitation systems, and they really do a lot. And it doesn't take much of that type of kind of. Some of the technology is relatively simple, especially to clean water. You can clean water. There's a lot of really brilliant methods to clean dirty water. But it was able to see that, and you know, you might wonder, well, why would an organization like Oxfam give a shit about an actor going to somewhere? But the truth about it is that, you know, they want people like me or other people with any kind of public profile to go and then talk about it. Because most people don't really know what it is.
Right.
And, you know, you don't usually want to listen to some nerdy, nutty professor